Thank you very much. I think there are a number of interesting questions, and some are just comments. So there is one from Mr. Eisenhower, retired managing director of Saint-Gobain. So, Dr. Malik, I think people and communication is important, but leader makes the difference, and it is important, right?
I think he said leader is not communication is. That's nice.
Right. So, you want to say something?
Also? Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's on. Okay. No, that would be a misunderstanding, I believe. I don't think leadership is less important, but I believe that leadership can benefit from exactly that. Personally, I think a good leader will take into consideration the opinion of his people, and especially he will make the most of the information and the knowledge and the expertise that his people have to offer. So, if a leader doesn't trust his or her people, then he usually that's a different problem, or if he believes that the people are not good enough, right? But if you have the right people in an organization, then I think the best that you can do is use those people to the best of your knowledge to make the maximum out of your people and use the potential that you have. And this, in my opinion, in our opinion, is actually a method that can amplify leadership, right? It can give you all the information, all the potential out of your organization for the complex problems that you face, and thereby amplify the leadership that you exhibit anyway. So I would not want to be understood that leadership is less important than this, but I believe this can be an excellent tool and method to amplify the leadership of a leader.
Because many times 5 or 6 news would come. Leader is important to take. So it is not only communication, but the leader is equally important.
And I agree, and that's by the way why in integrations we want to have the leaders present, right? They need to be part of that, exactly for that reason.
But they have the equal role. They don't have any. It's completely non-hierarchical in integration, and they don't play any extra. They don't get any extra vote. The leaders are part of the whole process, and it's completely a non-hierarchical structure. Thank you very much. This next from Mr. K.P. Nataraj. What is that? I can't. Is okay. Is flat organization ideal for cybernetics? Brainstorm. Your views?
Together brainstorm.
Right.
Sure, I can do that. It all depends on how you handle it, I believe. I'm a fan of flat organizations, I have to say. But from a cybernetic point of view, it's not necessarily relevant if you have a flat organization or a large organization. Stafford Beer, the same person who invented syntegration originally, you can't say invented, he discovered the viable system model. The viable system model is a structural model for organizations that is based on the human nervous system. And with it, you have levels of recursion that enable even organizations with many levels to function excellently and quickly and effectively. So wherever you can do flat organizations, and I believe IT especially enables us more and more to get rid of layers that we have, and which of course that makes communication easier, then I believe it's an absolute advantage. But I wouldn't say that just because you have organizational levels, that must be less effective necessarily.
Thank you very much. The next is from Mr. Ilayaraj, GM retired from SAGE. Mr. Ilayaraj? Yeah, Mr. Ilayaraj, thank you. So the question is, the collective intelligence think tank, is it a permanent arrangement or a temporary arrangement to address specific issue? I think, this is this integration is a 3-day or a 3.5-day workshop, right? So you create this integration for solving a specific issue. So this workshop, it happens, and then there it is practiced, but it's always better to have this collective intelligence. So as I said, when the organization becomes a self-regulating organization, I think even otherwise people come together, and this is, I think, the beauty of this integration is that how do you make the people collaborate with each other, just not for those 3 days, and how do you sustain it over a period of for the period. So the collective intelligence is a good idea, though it may not be always possible, but the aim is to have it continuously, just not for that period. Is that right?
Yes, however, there's different ways to apply it. So I agree 100% with that. It's often used to tackle individual challenges that you're facing, right? But in an ideal case, I would say it is applied regularly. So you can use it, for example, to pace your organization or to pace a project, right? To bring coherence into parts of the organization or a project when over time things go out of bounds. So you use it to pace it, or for example, you can use it at regular intervals to tackle issues that come up all the time, because there are, of course, reoccurring questions in organizations that don't go away. You know, you can solve them once, but they will reoccur because the environment changes, the circumstances changes, your people change, the environment changes. So as that does, you have to adjust, of course. So it can be done in both ways.
Thank you. So the next question is from Mr. Zulfikar of Mysore. Mr. Zulfikar? Online, okay. What role do emerging technologies like AI and big data play in simplifying decision-making process? How can they be leveraged effectively? Is it popular and effective with management professionals?
Mr. Gopal, you mentioned many of those technologies, right? And that it does simplify decision-making, and I agree, of course. I think there's two parts. AI will absolutely, all these should support and can simplify. The danger is, in my opinion, that we lose ourselves in data. Right? I'm a cybernetician. Cybernetics is about those essential variables that steer your system. It's not about getting as much data as possible. That has been made, that is easier than ever. But that can also confuse, right? Where is the guiding star in all the data that I get? So that danger is there, and I believe that can, on the one hand, that could simplify it, it can also make it more complex. So you want to focus on the things that really steer. I think AI will play a major role. Also, of course, even integration, right? That will play a major role in simplifying decision-making as well. But again, I see the danger in that we give artificial intelligence, all these things, too much power to make the decision as such. There is always a gap. No matter how much data we have, no matter how much we know and how good we know the facts, maybe, there is always a conscious decision to be made, yes or no, right or left, right? Even sometimes, every one of you has had that. You seem to know everything seems to be clear, but your gut feeling says something different. So there's still a decision that doesn't just rest on data, and artificial intelligence, at least so far, I believe, does not have a gut feeling. So I believe it should not replace, at least at the higher, more complex questions, decision-making as such, but it can certainly extremely boost our ability to do so and support and quicken the way we get there. That makes sense.
I just would like to add to what Doctor was saying. The question was very right. Today, with the AI world that we are living in, it just definitely enables to get the data much faster. There is no doubt about it. Maybe more data, complex data can be organized to one. The doctor was, in the slide, he was mentioning very clearly, direction, precision, and speed. Direction is what will be missing in AI. There will be too much of data glued, okay? But we really get complex. The topic itself says, strategies for simplifying decision making. That answers this question. To make it simplified, and this is what the direction you need to follow. Orientation is more important. I don't think AI would give you that. Because your goal and then direction, that is unique to everybody. AI will be more generic.
Okay, I think the next question is very similar. How can decision makers avoid over-reliance on technology and ensure that human judgment remains central to the process? particularly in the area of manufacturing and relevant MSMEs. I think I can't agree more on that. It's so whatever be the technology can be more of a support system, but you can't take the human out of the equation. So I think that's very, very well said. Is that okay?
I couldn't agree more as well, either. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that the question is how can they do that? And it's an important question, right? I think on the one hand, it's simply being conscious of it. It's a choice that we make, but we have to make that choice. We have to make sure that it's there. And I think what can help is by building into the system itself places and ways where the human being comes in, such as through, I hope, integration, for example, where you give agency to your people and not just to technology. And so you build it into a system because otherwise it sometimes gets lost. But I couldn't agree more that it's an extremely important question for the future, yes.
So that question was from Shankar Bangalore. The next question is from Nandini Chengalpattu. How do cultural or organizational factors influence the way complexity is perceived and managed in decision making? Mr. Singh, you want to say anything on that? How do cultural or organizational factors influence the way complexity is perceived and managed in decision making?
I'll tell you, first of all, before going to that, I would like to say we must know the difference between complicated and complexity. So somebody really asked me this question. Initially, I was wondering what it is. Then I thought for a while. Then I said, you see, today getting married is also complicated. Finding out a girl from our own community, relationship, wealth and everything. That is complicated, but easy. Once you marry, to stay lifelong peacefully, that is really complex. You all agree? Many husbands all will say that you have to better surrender to her to be peaceful. So what here also in India, there are a lot of complex culturally also one. I'll give an example. Suppose I have worked in this industry for more than 55 years. Every organization have got, when organization grows, different kind of, some people from south, some from north, some from east, all they work together. Culturally they are different. But I tell you, ultimately the objective of the company is to achieve a goal. Our subject today is that strategy for making a decision to
Simplify.
So today I have a business, I have to make a strategy. So some of my young boys used to say, sir, what is strategy? What you all say. So I say, strategy means today you are in this position and you want to go there. How will you go? So suppose I am in Chennai airport and I want to come to Mount Road. I find on the way there are some places there is strike, some places there is delay. I may have to take alternate routes with higher aid, but I have to come to Mount Road to attend this by a particular time. My strategy is how do I really make a decision to come to reach this place. So either I request people to wait for some time, is it good fun, or I take a taxi which can take a larger route and come and reach me here. So this kind of decision, even if that cultural different kind of cultural people are there in business, definitely the decision making, the strategy has to be made in such a way the complexities are all. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Singh.
May I add something to this?
Yeah, sure.
Being not of this culture, maybe I can add something because I find that very interesting. Culture always comes up, but I think there you have to distinguish between two things, and you said that very clearly, right? There's the culture of, let's say, the individual country or the individual corporation or organization, but there's also something that is the same everywhere. You said result, right? There can be a culture of we have to achieve results, a culture of professionalism, a culture of effectiveness. When you look at well-run companies, they're in a way run the same everywhere. If Air India, let's say, or Indigo Air work well, they work the same, just as well as Lufthansa. They will be managed in a very similar fashion. The way it is expressed is very different. I'm from Europe, let me take the difference between a German and an Italian, right? So an Italian will gesture a lot and be loud and be I don't know what, and the German will be very quiet. But what they do will be very similar if they want to achieve good results for their corporation. So I think that's where culture often is a bit confused. We have to look at what is similar, because only from that can we learn for our corporations and for the decisions that we make. The differences, in my opinion, are beautiful, because that's what makes us human, but where we're similar is where we can learn together and go forward.
The next question, thank you, Constantine. The next is from Shankar Pondicherry. What strategies or principles do you recommend for making decisions in situations where information is incomplete or rapidly evolving? I think this is the case everywhere. I don't think you will ever take a decision with the complete information. So every time that you take a decision, there will be something which is lacking. And this is where when you have a structure and co-create a solution, I think many of these, when people put together as, when the 40 people sit together and act as one brain, I think that all those gaps would be covered and there would be near completion of the complete information. It will never be the ideal situation, but I think this would be a best possible chance for co-creating a solution. This is what I think. Yeah?
Yeah, I believe absolutely. There are several cybernetic principles. I mentioned heuristics, for example, before. So a heuristic approach instead of an algorithmic approach. But there's also one very cybernetic. Heinz von Förster, one of the great cybernetics, once said, always act as to increase your options. That is not always possible, obviously. Sometimes we have to say green or yellow and what it is, and we have to run with it. That is clear. But wherever you can, increase the number of options that you still have in such a situation, because that your information is incomplete. Mr. Singh, you have so much experience.
Yeah, we'll finish. The next question is, as for Chengalpattu, what role does emotional intelligence play in simplifying and improving decision making at leadership level?
I'm not an expert on emotional intelligence, but I want to believe it plays an important one. I think that empathy is something that is incredibly important in organizations. I believe in the human factor, and I believe that although management, there's a saying, cybernetics is the science of what management is the profession, and management is the profession of achieving results. And that is important because that's what our organizations are all about, but there are different ways to get there. And I want to believe that that it's extremely important to show empathy with your people and to, show a large degree wherever possible of emotional intelligence. However, it is so not everybody has the same degree, and an effective manager needs to exhibit results. But like I said, I'm unfortunately not an expert on emotional intelligence. I just believe it plays an important role. What exactly is probably for someone else to answer.
In simple terms, as long as you work with human beings, emotional intelligence plays a key role. And for the leader, it's all the more important. And for any leader who work with different kinds of diverse gender, and Zen Z, Zen Alpha, Zen Beta, it's even more becoming important.
Thank you. What are the common pitfalls or biases that individuals and organizations should watch out for when simplifying complex decisions? Akash, Bangalore. What are the common pitfalls or biases that individuals and organizations should watch out for simplifying complex decisions? Anything in particular that you want to say here? Common pitfalls?
One pitfall in decision-making in general, but is the notion that the problem is clear, that you know what it is about. That usually comes too quickly. There's usually more to, especially when it's complex problems, there's generally much more to the matter than what you believe in the first instance. And so it is good to be aware of that, take a step back, and then include other people as well to make sure you have the most amount of information that you can get at this point about something. That's usually a very early pitfall.
I think this is the reason why Constantine also mentioned you do iterations. The first iteration you have something. Maybe when you are going for the second iteration, then some of the biases are avoided, and then you are actually enriching your solution because you are going to be a part of the other group meetings. So you're going to carry those information to that. So when you are doing the second iteration, then those biases are normally avoided. So I think this is how the structure works. The next question is from Sanjana of T Nagar. Is he here? She here? Online, okay. Could you share some personal insight on lesson learned from a decision-making challenge you have faced? How successful was it? Mr. Singh?
Yes, I will address it.
Yes.
Thank you very much for a very interesting, in fact, question. I tell you, as I have been in the industry for nearly 55 years, you see, in every place, wherever we go, the decisions are made in various ways. Somewhere it is owner-driven, somewhere it is the leader-driven, somewhere by a group of people. So now, today we want to really take, ultimately today's our discussion is that how we should decide in a complex issue. That is there are many other decisions to marry, not to marry, to go to friends' house. We are not discussing those things, although there may be some kind of relevance. But when we are talking of taking a decision in a complex situation, and as I said, complex is not just ordinary one, which is so difficult that there are so many variety of problems are there. So one is the variety. And when that variety has to be handled, they are so interwoven that by a common thinking, we will not be able to resolve that. So therefore we need. So what normally we have been doing all through, I think most of us, many leaders are here. We call group of people, we discuss various departmental heads. The head is sitting there, maybe 3-4 people like this. They ask, they discuss. While discussing this virtually, it is more or less a one-way traffic kind of thing. He asks, because we are the leader, whatever we are saying, we are deciding. So now the decision is such that today we are not able to get the knowledge of many people, which may be very relevant here. That's what I've been referring to him, that is called a tacit knowledge. There are many of us, we may not have any relevance in the particular subject matter for which we are discussing, but his input, he may not have been the right authority or he may not have the right status to display. But when we are discussing something, how do we really tap that tacit knowledge to make it explicit? So when we are doing a normal discussion, you can't have it. So today the problem is complex. For solving that complex problem, what the integration, what we are talking of is nothing. It is integration is only taking the iteration between various people. It is churning the issues about 3 to 4 times with about 30, 40 people in such a manner that the tacit knowledge is again coming, people are discussing, and that is coming to the center point so that we are other people, those who have even not known of it, that knowledge is coming to the entire mass and giving it. So the really here, like what we are talking of, this is in the principle of an engineering way, that is a compression and tension theory. Say today, you see the structure, what we are thinking, it is just it is about having 12 nodes and then about 20 triangles. So all that is standing in a different location. Take a case of Howrah Bridge. In 1890, it was designed, there was no pillar in between. It's about more than 1.5 kilometers. Those days there was no way. So that is only in the principle of your compression and tension theory. That means each of the joints, they are all in compression as well as in tension. Similarly, the same principle we are applying here in decision making. So when all these people are sitting, when we are discussing, one person has raised a question, that same thing is being debated, then it is again debated. There are critics who are criticizing this one in absolutely in a non-hierarchical, in a democratic manner. As he said, their leader will be there, but he has equal authority as much as that person who has raised the decision. So making a decision in a complex, first of all, the situation is complex, and in that complex situation, we are able to take a decision in a manner as we are talking through this mechanism of our, what do you call it? In our syntegration, sir. So I think I have been able to.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Singh. I think the next question is a little tough question. Last question, is it? Okay. What is one actionable step participants can take today to improve the decision making skills and simplify the approach to the complex problems? Daniel from Alvarpet, I think I would say it's a very difficult question, but from my point of view, respect others' point of view. I think if you are able to respect the other's point of view while taking a decision, I think that would be one of the best things from my point of view.
Yeah.
Constantine, you can say something.
It's super tough. It has to be actionable today. So Stafford Beer was once asked by participants in a conference in the elevator, what is your 2-minute video? And he said, what I do cannot be explained in 2 minutes. And the gentleman then said, then you don't exist. So it's a super tough question to just say, what can I do today? It's probably not super actionable right now, but I always think be interested in systems and systems theory and how things work together, how things are interconnected. That changes immediately the perspective you have on things, and it helps you deal with complexity much better.
Sorry? So there's one more last question. How can organizations balance speed and accuracy when making decisions in rapidly changing environments? Purushothaman Kochi. I'll just quickly go through this. And are there specific tools or technologies you would recommend for breaking down and visualizing the complex problems? Priya Adayar Chennai. How can this be used for stopping? What is it? Used for war stopping, is it? And energy, is it? Jay. War stopping. We can't. Yeah, I think there's also a set of questions. What we would do, Captain, is that maybe we will send an email reply for this due to the paucity of time. And then, but I think brilliant questions. Thank you very much for all those who have asked these questions. And I think we hope that to some extent we have, responded to the questions. But please feel free to refer to us. Captain has all our contacts. So if anything, kindly feel free to talk to us. Send us a mail or, and we will ensure that we are able to respond to the best of our ability. Thank you so much.